Hey there! Before we dive in, just a quick favour to ask. If you're enjoying the show, don't be shellfish. Please take a moment to rate and review it wherever you're listening. It helps more people find us in the big blue ocean of podcasts. You can also support us by hitting that follow or subscribe button, following us on Instagram at Word on the Reef Podcast, and sharing the podcast link with a friend who might love it too. And if you'd like to help keep us afloat, please consider becoming a patron for as little as $5 a month over at patreon.com/wordonthereefpodcast. You'll get a shout out on the show, and your support helps cover the behind the scenes costs like hosting, editing software, and more. Thanks so much. Now let's get into today's episode. Before we start this episode, I'd just like to acknowledge the Gimoy Walubara Yidinji people and the Irukandji people on whose land this podcast is recorded, as well as the other 70 traditional owner groups whose sea country makes up the Great Barrier Reef, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Word on the Reef. I'm your host, diver and marine conservationist Tanya Murphy, and joining me, as always, is Cairns Aquarium's marine educator and fish whisperer, Brett Goodban.
Good morning, another week. Wow, it's gone quick, hasn't it?
Now, Brett, how would you like a free trip to the reef in exchange for helping out with surveys and cleaning up marine debris?
When do we leave? I'm gone.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And so that's exactly what you can do as a volunteer with Reef Check Australia. From Cairns, Townsville and Sunshine Coast and more. Today, we'll find out how you can get involved. But first, a quick reef update. Right now, the Queensland Government is deciding whether to mandate cameras on trawl fishing boats. If you're a regular listener, you might remember our chat with Imogen Zaytoven about the Trawl Wars campaign back in 2004, the one that secured a third of the Great Barrier Reef as a green, no-fishing zone. But the other two-thirds of the reef is still open for fishing, and in some areas, that includes bottom trawling for prawns. That means endangered species like sawfish and sea snakes might be at risk of being accidentally caught as bycatch. To get a clearer picture, the government is proposing to install cameras on trawl boats to monitor what's being caught. Public consultation for that idea is open now, so if you'd like to support the idea of having cameras installed on trawling boats, head over to marineconservation.org.au to fill out the online submission form. It only takes about 1 minute. I'll pop the direct link in today's show notes at wordonthereef.com.
Get onto it, guys.
And now to today's guest. Jodie Salmond is a marine biologist and the general manager of Reef Check Australia. She's a specialist in citizen science, conservation biology and reef ecology. Underwater, she trains divers in global reef health monitoring. Above water, she inspires through hands-on research, education and mentoring, encouraging people to become the best versions of themselves and look after the planet.
Wow.
Jodie has won multiple awards for her work and we're thrilled to have her here. Good morning, Jodie, and welcome to Word on the Reef.
Thanks, guys. Lovely to be here.
Hey, Jodie. Thanks for joining us. We're really looking forward to this chat.
Yeah, it's great to have you on the show. So, Jodie, let's zoom out. Can you give us the background about the Reef Check Foundation globally? How did it start and what does it do?
Yeah, so it's pretty interesting how it all began. Back in around about 1996, there was actually an international coral reef symposium, and essentially a bunch of coral reef scientists all sat around the table, and a seemingly relatively innocuous question was actually asked, and that was, what is the state of the world's reef? And everybody stood up and said, oh, well, actually in California it's doing this. Oh, in the Great Barrier Reef it's doing this. In the Bahamas it's doing this. But actually no one could answer the question as to what the reefs were doing globally. And from out of that simple question, actually Reef Check International was born.
Wow.
This idea that, if we had a base structure, so it's the same monitoring methodology used absolutely everywhere in the world, no matter where you were, you can actually report on that as a global status each and every year since.
So like a mothership.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so the head office is in California, but you're doing the same method of reef surveying in more than 90 countries and territories.
Yeah, exactly.
And I understand every year Reef Check Foundation trains thousands of volunteers to survey tropical reefs all around the world, as well as some kelp forests in North America as well. and you're obviously the General Manager of Reef Check in Australia. But like many of the guests we've had on this show, Jody, you've had a very exciting and varied life with many world adventures. Can you tell us a bit about your background and how you came to be involved with Reef Check?
Yeah, so I actually think that Reef Check's kind of been following me throughout my entire life and or career. And back when I was at university, I really believe in the power of saying yes. We get told to say no a lot of the times, right? Protect our energy, make sure that we know what to say yes and no to. And although that's probably a newer age perspective, I definitely said yes to each and everything that has ever come my way. And during university, everyone was looking for volunteers to help with their PhD projects or honours projects. And I actually went to uni in JCU in Townsville. And I was asked at a particular time, so, hey, do you want to be a volunteer researcher? And I thought about it. Initially, I actually said no. And then by the time I'd walked back to my dormitory, I was like, 100% I should say yes to that. And I ended up getting the opportunity to go to Orpheus Island for the first time and helping someone study this international protocol that they were testing for their PhD, which actually happened to be Reef Check. And they were wanting to know whether it would actually be applicable in Australian reefs. Didn't think too much of it, spent a lot of time doing other different projects and research projects all over the Great Barrier Reef as well. And then fast forward a few years, and I actually found myself working on Christmas Island. And whilst I was over there, the team said, hey, does anybody know any Reef Check? We've got Reef Check sites here. I was like, I do actually. And so I had the opportunity to then go and monitor reefs in Christmas Island. I was already working there. I was already working for parks. So it was a nice, easy segue to go, hey, I get a couple of days off work and actually get to go and dive. And then fast forward again, I found myself actually in Mozambique. I took a job over there, a volunteer gig for 2 years. And whilst we were over there, we happened to have one of the Reef Check Australia trainers at the time living in Mozambique doing research as well. So we found a team of divers that were really interested in the reef health because there wasn't a program set up. And we actually set up Reef Check Mozambique. So then I thought, that's probably the end of it. After 2 years living there, it was time to move on. So I actually moved back to Australia looking for a full-time job. And the first thing I saw online was volunteer jobs going for Reef Check Australia.
Oh, it's followed you.
Yeah. And
Meant to be.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's
Reef Check chose you.
The reef has chosen you. You've got to say yes. We know that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sorry, we interrupted you. You were talking about how you got the job in Australia.
That's pretty much it. The rest was history. I went for it, and I've stuck around ever since.
Wow, awesome. Yeah, so I think Reef Check Australia has been going since about 2001, and you've been there for how many of those years?
So 2010 I've been around since. So yeah, been a long-term project for me for sure.
Wow. One of those really interesting experiences you had was volunteering in marine conservation in Mozambique. And I understand there were some unique challenges doing marine conservation in a developing country like that. Do you want to share any of those adventures?
Yeah, look, there was quite a few that looking back on, if I guess I had never told my parents what was happening at the time. And at the time I felt safe with who I was with and the company that I was volunteering with. But there was a variety of things that, it was pretty scary at times. I actually had a quad bike, and my entire job at the time was actually, I was employed as a turtle researcher. So to go and set up like this program from a whole beach that was looking to be developed. But it was, someone wanted to, check out the turtle population. He was really interested in protecting it all. But whilst we were there, we realised that it's actually relatively dangerous to walk on the beach at midnight by yourself. So I had a local gentleman from a village. We actually met with all of the heads of the villages, and this particular gentleman was put forward as the best contender. So every night I would pick him up on the back of a quad bike, and he either had a machete or an AK-47 at one stage.
Oh, okay.
And that was my protection level.
Wow.
So that was quite interesting anyway, right? But whilst there was a lot of things that had happened, but during that time I actually went home for a quick holiday, and when I came back, that same gentleman had actually passed away from a UTI.
Oh, dear.
Which was devastating for so many reasons. Now, for starters, he actually spoke the local language, and it was a language called Bitonga, and it's an offset from Portuguese, and I spoke broken Spanish. So for starters, there was always this communicative component of us just like kind of talking, and if you were doing that for 6 hours on the beach each night, it's very interesting to have those conversations.
Yeah.
But when I got back, he was missing, and he had passed away, we found out. But because of that, we got labelled as black magic, and no one was allowed to work with the white women anymore.
Oh, wow.
The bad juju.
Yeah.
Bad juju, yeah. So then it became this really interesting mix. We had to get other people from other areas to come in and still be that protective component. And you might be thinking, why did I need a protector? And part of that was actually because, one, people were eating the turtles. And finally, when I got through to people going, no, we're looking for the turtles. And they're like, oh. So then they started showing me their skeletons. I'm like, okay.
Right.
So now it came into a mortality study.
Yep.
But there's a lot of whale sharks there as well.
Is there?
And whilst on Christmas Island, I fell in love with whale sharks, so I chased them over to Mozambique. And locals would actually swim out with a really massive saw, and they would wait until a whale shark would come near, and they'd actually cut their fins off.
Oh,
Just
okay.
the top one. It's about $40,000 for one of those fins at the time. They do not make that. They make pennies. So then there was this other element. So there's not only just the turtles. The thing is, as I had mentioned to Tanya, who am I to come in and say what people can and can't do? For starters, it's not my country.
That's right.
But also they're starving. So from the wars, there's almost no food in those areas. So they're really reliant on the sea and on coconuts in particular. And so now we're having these discussions with people about what food sources they have, and then the income sources obviously are being utilised from other people coming in and wanting to use those, like whales and whale sharks, etc. So yeah, there's a lot of contention in that area.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it?
Particularly unsafe at sometimes. So yeah, very, very interesting. It's a lovely area.
That's why human rights and fighting inequality and poverty in the world is intrinsically intertwined with saving the environment, because, steps like, for example, cutting aid to developing countries could, have the flow-on effect that they end up having to eat endangered species or something. It's all quite intertwined.
Yeah.
Now we're going to dive into the positive stuff about Reef Check. Now, Jody, you are actually now based in the Sunshine Coast. I know you did your marine biology degree in Townsville at JCU, but for any of our international listeners who aren't familiar, the Sunshine Coast is actually not on the Great Barrier Reef. It's further south, closer to Brisbane, but it's still home to an incredible array of marine life, isn't it? What's the marine ecosystem like down there, Jody?
Yeah, our marine system down here is actually quite interesting, and it's very different to the Great Barrier Reef. We call it Southeast Queensland, and in particular down here, it's a subtropical rocky reef. So if you think about the Great Barrier Reef, there's a beautiful amount of really hard coral that creates that baseline, and then corals grow on top of that further and further and further. When you go further south, like where I am, a lot of that's actually rock. So there's a huge amount of rock with lots of corals growing on it. So if you were to look at it, it looks very similar in some spots, but certainly very dominated by soft corals in particular. And it's a little bit colder down here as well.
Oh, yes. I actually had the luck to dive there a couple of years ago at a place called Wolf Rock, which had a famous grey nurse shark aggregation site. Maybe it's called Nurse Rock. I don't know.
Oh, that'll work.
Wolf Rock, you're right.
Yeah, okay, great.
Okay, I'm packing my bags again.
Yep. Was cold, but I just didn't have my normal wetsuit with me, so I borrowed one that wasn't very warm. Anyway, it was absolutely incredible. We're surrounded by dozens of these sharks, and although they're quite large and have pointy teeth, they only eat fish, so they were pretty much gentle giants, and it was a beautiful experience diving with them. And I also did some whale watching on the Sunshine Coast, so can confirm absolutely amazing marine ecosystem down there. And so the Reef Check operations happen down there, but also on the Great Barrier Reef. So for any listeners who are keen to get involved, in which towns or areas do you operate out of with these activities?
Yeah, so we're actually operational along the whole length of the Queensland coastline. So as far south as literally just right on the border there in a place called Cook Island, which is technically half and half in Queensland and New South Wales. And then the Sunshine Coast, got Gold Coast and Brisbane, so Moreton Bay as well. We've got some sites in Hervey Bay, and then we flick all the way up, and we've got the Whitsundays, Bowen, Townsville, Cairns, and Port Douglas as well. So huge array of opportunities.
Yeah, awesome. So I guess picking up the trash part is something that anyone can get involved with. But if people want to sign up to help out with the coral surveys, what sort of training or experience do they need to get?
Yeah, so there is a variety of programs that people can get involved with. And as you mentioned, it's easy enough. Of course, we can go outside and pick up trash in our local area whenever we like. We do also organise beach cleanups and underwater cleanups. So if you want to participate in an underwater cleanup, you can either do it as a snorkel for some sites or as a diver, which means you do need to be an advanced open water diver to join that. Then if you want to do anything a little bit more in-depth with the coral reef surveys, So we do have a program called Reef Search, which you do not need any training for. You can take these underwater slates that helps you identify a subset of what our trained reef check survey divers look for. You can purchase the kits, you can go and monitor your heart's content there. Otherwise, to become a trained reef check survey diver, you do need to be, it's called an AQF rescue or above. So if you're a dive master, way easier. You've already surpassed all of that.
Yep.
And then we do a bit of in-water training and online training because our data is actually used everywhere, and as we already discussed, it also goes globally. So we want to make sure that the data we're collecting is valid. And so it is about 4 days on topside and then 2 days in the water. So up to 4 dives to really make sure that you feel comfortable in the water as well and that your identification's on point.
Yeah, right. So up to a week investing your time, but then after that, you're able to get involved.
A week out on the reef.
Oh, well, some of it is online study. And then
you can do it online on the boat.
Sure, yep.
Immerse yourself in it.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a long-term monitoring program, which means you try to survey the same sites every year when you can, at least once a year, so trends can be compared over time at that site. Can you tell us about the survey methods you use and what sort of things you're looking for in the water?
Yeah, for sure. So our teams will vary from anywhere between 2 to maybe 6 people in any one team that goes out at any time. And as you mentioned, we do try to get back to the same kind of site. We don't actually have permanent markers, so it's called a stratified haphazard method. And basically it means we're using a GPS coordinate to get us as close as possible, and also a bunch of sites that we might either recognise visually or that we can actually line up with to make sure that when we go into the water, we know that we're within about 10 metres maximum of the site that we want to get to. And usually we do that every year. Some sites actually get monitored 2 to 4 times a year, depending on where it is.
Wow, that's good.
Yeah, and so obviously then we can start to get that seasonal variability as well.
Right.
And then once we're in there, we've got a few different jobs. So the first thing is that somebody's going to be looking for fish. So there's a huge variety of fish species that we look for, and that's usually based on the region and also what kind of fish, A, are easy to recognise and also globally seen, knowing that it's a global program, in addition to what is seen locally as really important. So whether that's for food fish or whether it's a really important role on the reef that they play.
Like coral trout are important.
Yeah.
And coral trout is actually one of the ones that we look for, as well as a heap of other grouper. And that's all been decided with a bunch of research behind the scenes. So we initially talked to groups like CSIRO, AIMS, JCU, a variety of other universities and fishermen, etc. as well, in the setup way, way, way before, so around about 2000 when it was being set up for 2001. So that's just the fish. Then there's somebody who's looking at substrate. And so the substrate is just anything that is on the bottom of the reef. That is sessile, it doesn't move anywhere. So that could be coral, rock, algae, etc. And it seems really boring to look for rock and algae, but actually we know that they play such an important role, same as sponges. So we want to know how much of a percentage of any of the reef has been made up of things like that, as well as any of the coral species that are there.
Yep.
And that is every 50 centimetres for a 100-metre tape. So it can be broken into 4, so you've got 4 by 20 metres with a 5-metre gap in between. But every 50 centimetres, you're recording what's under that tape measure.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, so it's like one kick,
Everybody.
there's sponges. Another kick, there's coral. Another kick, there's rubble. Another kick, there's sand. And then you can, at the end, out of 100 metres, you can calculate what percentage of everything.
And so much data to collect in that space too.
Yeah, definitely. So there's 160 data points just for the substrate, plus obviously the fish. And then the last 2 people that come along are actually looking at invertebrates and impacts. And they're a buddy team as well. And they do a U-shaped search pattern. Our transects run, as I mentioned, 100 metres long and 2.5 metres wide. So people are actually looking that entire area. And when we're looking for invertebrates, again, it's key invertebrates that, A, can be spotted all around the world, and also that are easy to identify or have a really important role on the reef.
Right.
And then in terms of impacts, we're also looking at things like marine debris, because we're really interested in how much of the debris from land is making its way into the reefs, as well as fishing debris, etc. but we're also looking at things like broken coral, whether there's anchor damage, whether there's disease, and also bleaching is another big one.
Okay, well, we've completed the training. We're ready to jump in.
Yeah, we're off. See ya. We're offline now.
Just
Awesome,
joking.
let's do it.
We know that there's a few days worth of study to really understand how to identify all of those things. But
Definitely see, though, that the rescue diver minimum is required for that.
Yeah, lots of things to do,
Yep.
as you know. And then when we can, what we do like to do is we're always about value adding and how can we collect the most amount of data in any site using the people we have. So we actually partner with Coral Watch quite a bit. So if we've got time, we do try and do Coral Watches on every one of our surveys. We actually try and do a RIS at the end of our Rapid Health Impact Survey from Gabrumpa as well, or the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park Authority, to try and do that at the end as well. But as you mentioned, that's a lot of tasks to create and do.
Yeah.
So it really is about making sure everybody is safe, everybody feels good, and if we've got the time, then we do those extra tasks.
yeah, awesome. So collaborating with Coral Watch, which is another surveying organisation, and the Marine Park Authority, as you said, and the Institute of Marine Science, and just having these people trained up and out there, being able to do as many data points as possible. It's
Yep,
great.
as many eyes and people as we can.
Exactly.
Yep.
We keep saying, like, it's going to take all hands on deck, right? So it's
Yep.
not about competition, but how do we actually work together to really exponentially create more data or collect more data as we go.
Yeah, absolutely. So next, Jodie, what is that data used for?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and it's a really nice way to kind of validate that all of the effort that we're doing and all the volunteer hours that go into this is actually being utilised. So we have our own database for Reef Check Australia, and that's all collected there and actually divvied out. So there's quite a few natural resource management bodies. If you're looking at any of the report cards within your region, you'll usually find that whenever it comes to the coral health, that our data actually is part of that feeds into it. So within Australia, it's certainly used by local councils and regional and national. Locally as well, it has actually been utilised to look at some of the zoning plans and then used to rezone certain areas based on our long-term monitoring data. So remembering that some of our sites have been around since 2001, and in southeast Queensland they've been around since 2007. So you can imagine there's quite a substantial amount of data there.
Yeah.
So we're starting to get a really good picture, and that's why it is used for these long-term monitoring programs. And then on top of that, our data actually goes internationally as well. So it does go to Reef Check International along with all the other data from all other countries, and they can actually start to report on what the global reef health is doing as well.
That's so
They
cool.
put out a national report as well.
That's really good for volunteers too. You know, they know that all their efforts and everything is just going to this big, everyone's making a difference.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's really key, right?
Yeah.
Like, we need to make sure that, everybody wants to be appreciated for the work that they do. And I think that especially in the marine field, it can be really, really busy. But actually, it's, again, not supposed to be competitive, but it's all about how do we collect more data so we have a better understanding. And then we also know that all of these people collectively, we're all making a difference
Yeah,
as well,
well,
for better decision makers.
Me and Tanya were talking off air before you came on about the connection with most of our guests in being able to empower everyday people. You don't need to be a scientist, you don't need to be a professional diver. Everyone can chip in and help.
Yep, engagement.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and as we spoke about earlier, even simple things like, we run a lot of events where people like to turn up, and it's a part of a community, right? You
Yep.
love to be able to go there and see people and meet new people that have a vested interest and similar interests to you. But you can also make decisions in your home on your day-to-day that do actually create these ripples.
Absolutely.
So for me, it's really about how do you create a ripple. Everything you do creates a ripple, but how can you create enough ripples that when people join in, all of those ripples create waves. And that's where those big changes come in.
I'm so going to use that in my coral show at work now. I'm taking it.
100%, go for it.
Thank you.
Just as long as at the end you say trademark. Jodie
Yeah, that's
Sullivan.
right. I'll do it very quickly. Yeah.
So what are the biggest threats to the reef that you're seeing in these long-term surveys?
Yeah, I would say it's really different for different regions as well. So what we actually do is another part of what we've trialled is using shallow water drone monitoring as well for some key areas. And we've also used photogrammetry and also photo transects, which go into the Australian Institute of Marine Science Reef Cloud database. So that's just to show that there's a huge variety of different methodologies that we use. What I would say is it can be very different from the Great Barrier Reef to southeast Queensland.
Yes.
But in particular this year, just the changes in weather patterns have been really interesting from a perspective of trying to get out there, but also what does that mean when you've got increased amounts of water, because all of that water is coming out into our river systems and then out into our bays and oceans. So for starters, what we've seen is huge influxes of fresh water, which very, very quickly have the capacity to kill off huge areas of coral.
Yeah.
And then from that, we have these really big algal blooms, which have now lasted a couple of years in certain sites. So we've actually potentially lost complete areas of reef, which might take years and years and years before they actually
Just
recuperate.
heartbreaking.
Is that in the southeast Queensland?
Definitely in southeast Queensland in pockets. So Moreton Bay is very, very shallow. My favourite reef in Moreton Bay absolutely got annihilated, and I can share photos with you that show you within 2 weeks what it looks like and then what it's covered in.
Is that within the last year?
That was actually in 2022 with the big floods that we had down here.
Yeah, we've talked a lot on this show with previous guests about the impact of climate change on the Great Barrier Reef. We're seeing increased frequency and severity of marine heat waves, which causes worsening coral bleaching, but it's also seeing more severe extreme weather events like floods around the world. And in southeast Queensland, it was one of those 1 in a 100-year floods, wasn't it? And I guess it wasn't just all the humans that lost their homes. Sounds like some fish might have lost their homes as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it obviously has that flow-on effect. So it's the corals that get smashed, but obviously in the Great Barrier Reef as well, when you're getting massive outflows, you also have an increase in the nutrients that are just coming from upstream. And that increase in nutrients allows more algae to grow, and then there are other critters that would actually start to thrive and outcompete local species as well. So I would say humans obviously are the catalyst for some of this, or certainly a lot of it. And then when you're talking about marine debris, like we're finding huge amounts of marine debris on our beaches and into our oceans as well, which would be also a big one, which is really interesting. And I say that because I was just at a hackathon on the weekend where students were actually trying to solve these really big issues such as climate change, such as plastic pollution, such as coral bleaching on global scales. So it's beautiful to see that there are young minds that are dedicated to trying to fix this as well.
I see that every day at work when I take the kids through from preppies to year 12s, and it just blows my mind with what they know. I just love it.
Though,
it's
because
incredible.
You need those positive impacts, right? Because it's really easy, as we were just talking about, the idea to empower people is exactly what we need to do, because if you start feeling overwhelmed, eco-anxiety is real. I've seen it in so many people, but if it gets down to that, then really it's really hard to get out of that. So let's make sure that we do shine lights on those rays of hope and, continue to push forward rather than put our heads in the sand.
It's definitely a generational change. I can see it at work every day.
Yeah, great.
It's
I love
fantastic.
Okay, so with Reef Check and the amazing volunteer programs that you do, I know there's some really cool incentives if there's any listeners out there who aren't already signing up immediately to get involved, in that volunteers who put in a good amount of hours might get picked for expenses paid trips to do surveys at some of those more incredible destinations like Heron Island, and maybe to help other scientific research organisations like AIMS and so on.
Yeah, definitely. And so I guess it's the old adage of life, really, right? The more you put in, the more you get out.
Yep.
And so for us, we have lots and lots of volunteers and lots of people that want to sign up and participate in that one-off event, which is great. I love that people have any form of dedication and time and energy to do so. But it's when we get people that are really interested in putting in more hours and learning more, because obviously the more surveys you do, the more you start to learn, the more the picture of the whole entire reef actually starts to form as well. And so those people that put in more time, more energy, and help out wherever they can, I don't have like a brownie point calculator by any means, but if we've noticed in particular, you know what, they're the ones that are always putting their hand up. They're the ones that are always helping others with that peer-to-peer mentoring as well. We do have some pretty cool experiences. So whether that's we've actually got local Indigenous-owned boat trips down here, which we've got local cubby that speak about what's going on in the water, and we then talk about the science. That's a really beautiful experience. We have some trips, obviously, up and down the coastline in the Great Barrier Reef where people can come along and learn more and actually go out onto the reef. We have previously been with AIMS, or the Australian Institute of Marine Science, helping with their RRAP, which is Reef Restoration Adaptation Program, where we go and catch baby corals on the spawning nights and then help look after them and redeploy them. So all as volunteers, and again, that is some pretty cool opportunities that you may not have. And certainly Heron Island is always a jewel. So we do run one Heron Island trip a year. It is not a holiday because we've got lots and lots of stuff to do, but it is also my favourite place in the world.
Heron Island
really
is,
nice
it's just
it's
gorgeous.
incredible. Yeah.
Right? so much there. It's really cool.
Yeah. Well, like you said, Jodie, if you say yes to opportunities, you never know where you might end up.
Yep, that's
exactly.
it. Live in the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if there are any listeners out there, hopefully 100% of listeners are now interested in getting involved.
Love that. I'm on board.
Yes.
Flick me a message.
Yeah,
Yep,
so
get on now.
where can they look this up for more information and to sign up and get involved?
Please feel free to check out our website, which is reefcheckaustralia.org. Otherwise, if you're on social media, we do put all of our trainings or upcoming trainings go onto our social media pages as well, which is just Reef Check Australia. So if you follow along for those, we do have some closed groups. So once you're a volunteer, we can post everything in there so you know exactly what is happening at any time. But feel free to reach out, drop me an email if that's what you would prefer. And I always say to people, look, we are all busy, so please feel free to reignite that and continue to follow me up, and I will definitely get back to you.
Here in Cairns, a good friend of mine, Jules, is heading up the Cairns-based survey and cleanup expeditions. So shout out to Jules, and anyone in Cairns that wants to get involved, go and sign up.
Yes, and she will be running some things to Fitzroy very soon. So if you want to go get over to Fitzroy Island and check out what that's about, most definitely hit us up.
Now's the time, yeah.
Just having a look at your website, there's a couple of good graphics on there for people to have a look at too, on impacts on land and ways to help at home and things that you can do to help protect it as well. Infographic resources, so that's really good for people if they want to go and have a look.
Yeah, well, we do have international listeners on our online podcast. If there's people who can't make it right now to come and do a survey with Reef Check, you can still learn a lot about things you can do from home. And, I mean, since Reef Check's international, they could probably get involved in their own country as well, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and again, as we said, it's very important that people realise that although we're talking about the reef and your whole podcast is about the reef, the intention is everyone can do something from home that makes an impact in their local environment. So if you can connect with nature, I honestly believe that that connection is key to making, real progress. Because if you care about something, that is when you want to protect it. So how do we get more people involved in their local environments, which definitely still impacts the reef?
Yeah, well, we've talked to other experts on the show before that planting trees helps the reef ultimately with the reduction of flooding and erosion. So wherever you are, folks, get involved with some community environmental group wherever you are. Our guest today is Jodie Salmond, marine biologist and general manager of Reef Check Australia. And we've been talking all about how you can volunteer and get involved with marine debris cleanups and reef surveys with Reef Check Australia all along the coast of Queensland. And a little bit in Western Australia as well, isn't it, Jodie?
Yeah, correct. We actually have a few snorkel sites over there out near Exmouth, actually.
Awesome. So, yes, wherever you are, or if you're planning a trip to Australia, make sure you check out Reef Check. Actually, that is a good question. I get emails all the time from people who are just planning a trip to Australia just for a few weeks or like a few months. Is there still a way? Can they still get involved in these activities, Jodie, or is it more for longer term commitment?
Yeah, so for the in-water surveys, it is a little bit more for longer-term commitments because obviously there's a substantial amount of training that goes into that. And also a cost to the individual, right? Because you do need to have your own gear or be able to hire it. So there's a little bit of cost there. But if you still want to be involved in some of the other trips, you can actually participate in some of these trips paying as a guest. Or if you want to do the cleanups and any of our snorkel activities, more than happy for anyone who's travelling to come in and hang out for a few days or a few weeks or a few months as well.
Yeah, awesome.
Oh, that's great. I'll pass that on to my customers at work.
And all of our podcast listeners from overseas, if they haven't already booked their trip, hopefully they're going to line it up so they can come on a Fitzroy Island cleanup or something
We'll see you
while
soon.
they're here. Yep, see you all soon.
Yeah.
So, Jodie, there's so many interesting things that you do. Can you tell us about the invention you're working on to help pick up microplastics off the beach?
Look, it's in the stage 3 at the moment of probably 20 iterations, to be honest. But it all stems from because I just pick up so much rubbish, and we actually spent, I think there was 5 of us for 2 hours cleaning up this little pocket near us, and we only managed to clean up 1 square metre.
Oh,
like,
my
that's
God.
tiny.
Because the microplastics are just so tiny to pick up.
Yeah, and lots of nurdles as well, so the little bits of plastic that all plastic items start as, so these little nurdle things. And so from that, because it's actually painstaking work, right? So not only do you have a lot of people and it's a lot of time and energy, but the ability to bend over and actually pick up all these things was just playing on my mind. And I'm like, right, so I sat down and I sketched out what I thought might work to basically use static electricity to pick up bits of plastic. Because we've got so much pumice stone down here, the issue is, yes, we can use the small vacuum, but if our intention is to remove plastic and waste from the environment, if you use a small vacuum, over time it actually will be destroyed from the salt. So I wanted something different. And so literally just using, I actually sent the sketch to my dad, who is a builder. And literally within 20 minutes, he'd sent me a prototype. He's like, here's a video, version 1. And basically having wool, having some PVC, and having a kind of like a massive roller painter so that you could hold it and walk along and do it that way. Version 1 didn't work. There wasn't enough static electricity getting through. So version 2, we tried something else. It's not strong enough. So we've got to come up with version 3, 4, etc. But the intention is like, look, microplastics are absolutely everywhere, and it's getting to a stage where some of it is actually smaller than sand. So how do you get rid of it?
You can't even sieve it if it's smaller than the sand.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
right.
So we need to use another device to get rid of it. And there is some devices out there where you can shovel huge amounts of sand onto this thing and you can sift it and do all this stuff. But that was still taking hours to try and sift areas. So the intention of it is that you would literally walk along that kind of looks like a broom-ish along the beach, and it collects it. And then, yeah, there's a couple of other pieces to it, right? We need to be able to get it off and go into a bag, like a cloth bag, without getting rid of the charge. There's heaps of things, but it's in iteration 3 at the moment.
Wow. Well, one day you can come up with a massive one you can bolt to the front of a tractor and you can just do kilometres of the beach in one hit.
Right?
Yep.
It'd be super cool.
Aim
right?
big,
Because then,
sister.
Yeah.
That's right, yeah. And my first thing was like, let's just see if we can create something out of the things in the backyard, because the idea is that we don't want it to be expensive. We want people to be able to use it. And ultimately, it's not about making money. It's about getting rid of a problem.
Absolutely.
So how can people do it? So, we'll get there.
Wow. Shark Tank, hit her up. We've got to
What a
invest
great
in
idea.
these inventions, world-changing inventions.
We could start our own Enviro Shark Tank.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Environmental ideas only.
Yeah, I love that. There you go.
Looking forward to it, Brett.
All right, that's our next venture.
So, Jody, not only for your inventions and running Reef Check Australia, but you're a pretty busy and inspiring person. You also do a bunch of other cool stuff, and I understand you will soon be publishing a book about some of your life experiences and the philosophies that help you stay inspired and motivated throughout all of your ventures. So hopefully all our listeners will buy a copy of your book and get the full story. But in brief, what parting advice do you have for other people out there who have a dream to make a difference and live their best life at the same time?
Look, I think as we started off at the very start of it, I think that you just need to say yes. I think we get caught up in saying no and understanding where is your energy, what do you need to say no to, how do we protect and make sure that you're singularly focused. And that is great for some parts of your life, but I do think that you start to miss out on the opportunities if you continually say no because you're quite closed and focused.
Yeah.
So for me, bring play into every element of your life where you can. You can make mistakes and laugh about it. That is actually perfectly normal and actually really healthy. You can say yes to things and find out that they don't work later on, right? That's kind of part of it, and it's like that failing forward element. You can try strange things. I think I mentioned earlier, or to you, Tanya, like I just always wanted to find a dinosaur bone, so I found a group that I could go and dig for dinosaurs in Victoria, actually, because I just wanted to.
I want to do that too. I want to find a dinosaur bone.
I will go. I'll send you the link. 100%. They still do it, and it's all volunteer. So the idea is always say yes to volunteering. I think that opens doors that you don't necessarily have. It gives you experiences in places that you would not normally go to because they're not necessarily tourist associated. And certainly just say yes. Say yes to anything that life throws at you safely, and I think you will absolutely reach the sky limit.
Yeah. If you feel a connection with something, just go for it.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where can people look up your book and order one? What's it called?
It is called The Element of Play, and the website's actually The Element of Play. So have a look for it. It will pop up. It is in the final stages, so it's not ready for publication just yet, but it is definitely in the works. We've got a publisher on board.
Amazing. Okay, so what fabulous timing we have today. We've got 5 minutes left of the show.
Yeah, we've done good today.
Is there anything else that you wanted to tell us about, Jody?
I would say, look, the story about Mozambique sounds really scary. So what I would like to say to anyone is that if you are looking to travel to Africa, it's not all as scary as they made it out to be. that was one particular job at one particular time. But I would say it is actually an amazing place to explore. It's got huge amounts of whale sharks, mantas, all the biggest megafauna that you can find. It's really well known for that. And I lived in a place called Tofu, which is very well recognised as being megafauna-centric. So definitely go and adventure and check it out for some really beautiful rural African adventures. But also, if you've never been to Christmas Island, 100% check that out as well. It is an absolute treasure trove of unique species. And then same thing, just say yes. So I think really we've spoken about so many beautiful opportunities everywhere, and you've had so many amazing guests on before. So I think use the links. You've got people on board, so use it and try everything.
Well, I just want to say my bit. I want to say a massive thank you, because in my job, it's not even a job. I don't even know why I say that. I have the best job in the world where I can stand in front of, we've done 2.8 million people since we opened 7.5 years ago, that I educate on everything to do with the environment, coral, sharks, and I'm just so passionate about it. But knowing that there's incredible people like yourself and every guest we've had on here that are so passionate about it as well, it just enforces what we do, because our guests can then leave our facility feeling inspired, and then they've got somewhere to use it. So thank you. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Jodie, for all your awesome work. And my message now for all the listeners is remember that the answer to the questions is yes.
Yes.
So my question is, are you going to come and visit the Great Barrier Reef and get involved with Reef Check?
It's a resounding yes.
Yes.
All right. Jodie Salmon, Marine Biologist and General Manager of Reef Check Australia. Thanks again for your incredible work, and thanks for joining us on Word on the Reef today.
Very welcome. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Jodie.
And I will come up and say hi very shortly.
Please do.
Awesome. We'll see you then. All right. Well, we've got 3 minutes, Brett, and
Okay.
we've got time for a joke. So,
You've just been dying to do this for a couple of weeks, haven't you?
well, ever since we did a couple of weeks ago, we interviewed someone about fish migration from the ocean to the rivers, and I missed a perfect opportunity at that time to tell this joke. So I'm going to tell it now. Are you ready?
I've been waiting. Bring it on.
What did the fish say when it swam into a brick wall?
Damn. Oh, am I right?
Yes.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Have you got a joke, Brett?
I did have. What do you call a fish that won't shut up? A big mouth bass. Oh, that's awful. I can do better than that, I promise. What do you call a fish that can play the piano?
Don't know.
Oh, that doesn't even make sense. A tuneful? No, a tuneful?
Tuneful.
That's awful. I'm going to do better.
No. What does a fish use if it sings off pitch? Auto-tuner.
Auto-tuner. That was mine a few weeks ago. I was going to use that. You stole it. Oh, everyone's just looking at their cups of tea going, now, gosh, they got to do better than this next time.
Well, we can't use up all our terrible jokes in the 1 week. So thanks to you all our listeners for putting up with our terrible jokes and joining us on Word on the Reef. I'm Tanya Murphy. My co-host is Brett Goodban, and we will be back next Friday at 10 a.m. with more awesome marine science adventures.
Happy diving.
Best fishes, and see you next time.
Bye.